Hello, hello. Welcome back to Tuesday Talks with Hannah. I'm Hannah Levin from Heartfelt Wellbeing. And today, as I'm recording this, today is July 4th. So you might be watching this at another point in time. And I just had an experience that I'm going to share some about. And I've been thinking a lot about freedom and our dance as a society of independence with interdependence. I taught a yoga class on it this morning. I'm very curious about how our expectations of our culture continue to shape us and our mental health specifically. And I'm exploring this for myself. Like everything that I end up teaching, I want to try it first on myself, experiment with it in my own life. And so today I'm going to be talking about doing a tech detox, or what is sometimes called a digital detox. And it's really something that I hope everybody is exploring on some level. As technology becomes such an inherent part of our lives, to be totally disengaged with technology means you're not participating in the world and you're not staying up to speed, and that leads to a lot of alienation. However, being overly engaged with technology can also have its drawbacks and downsides for how we experience the world. So I think it's really important for us to not just go with the flow, to not just be caught up in what feels like expectations of everything around us. We're all then the blind leading the blind. We've never lived in a time with so much technological accessibility, so much technological ability, and we're seeing the fallout from that tremendously. So I've noticed in myself that I need periodic detoxes or breaks from technology. That I get into cycles where I feel like I have to be checking my phone all the time or working on something on the computer, and that it becomes addictive where I'm constantly checking my phone or constantly looking things up or constantly checking social media, that there's an inability, if I watch myself, to be without my phone for an extended period of time. So over the past couple years, I've done full day or half day breaks where I just turn off my phone. One time, David and I went on a backpacking trip that was just an overnight, and I left my phone at home. Another time, I just turned off my phone for the day, and I worked in my pottery studio, and I went on walks, and I made food, and I just took, that was a Sunday that I took off. So not a work day. But I recognized the benefit. I think that it's noticeable and very challenging to see the benefit and then follow through with stepping out of being in communication. So my most recent experiment with this is that I went on a retreat this past weekend. So I arrived after lunch on Friday and then left after lunch on Monday. So it was kind of 4 days, but like half of the first day and half of the last day. So we could say 3 whole days that I was at this retreat. And so I decided, this was not part of the expectations of the retreat, but I decided for myself that I would like to use this time as a tech detox. So I prepared my team, my assistant, the mentors in the Vitality Circle, and everybody to know that I would not be available during that time. And we set up channels of communication should any emergencies occur. And they knew that I was going to be, oh shoot, am I talking through my AirPod? I think that just popped up. I hope. Disconnected. Hold on 1 second. Let me just. Okay. Hopefully now I'm talking through. Okay. Hope you heard all of what I just said. Betsy and Marianne, you're here. Let me know. I'm hoping that you heard what I was just sharing. It might have been through the AirPod that was sitting on my desk. Anyway, so I decided that I wanted to take this time of being on retreat to turn off my phone. So I prepared everybody in my work world for that. I also, great, thank you, Betsy. She heard it all. Thanks, Betsy. And then I also, talked with David about, me not being in touch. So I wasn't going to check in at all on the family. I wasn't going to, text good night. I wasn't going to, be in touch at all. And so she was, David was prepared for that too. Sorry, I was looking at the comments here. Thank you, Marianne, for letting me know you can hear as well. So it took some preparation and preparing people in my world, communicating with them that I would not be in touch. And then I arrived at the retreat, turned my phone off, and the experience was so multifaceted for me. At first, I felt quite a bit of panic, actually. Like, I couldn't just see if somebody had texted me. I couldn't message people, or if I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to blah, 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 right? Like, I think we all have those little moments where we're like, oh, I need to text that person or forward this thing or, whatever. Like, we are responsible to lots and lots of people in our lives. And so there was the panic. There was the discomfort of feeling kind of alone, and maybe I could even say a bit empty. Like, I didn't have a distraction that I was used to pulling up constantly to engage my time, to fulfill some sort of dopamine rush. Like, that's a lot of what social media gives us, and texting and all sorts of things. So I noticed that. And then I also noticed that I was able to, as I just was feeling my feelings, right? So part of what I got to practice with this was being in a place of discomfort, honoring that I was uncomfortable, and kind of holding myself just in that space, not trying to fix it, not trying to change something immediately, but to just be like, yeah, this feels uncomfortable. And of course I was doing this as an experiment, so I was very eager to see how did it feel. So noticing that there was a fair amount of discomfort with it. It was like that was data that I was gathering. There was a lot of discomfort. And then as the retreat really got going, I just felt like this invitation to be so present. I wasn't trying to connect with the outside world. I was, in fact, trying to do the opposite. And so as the retreat went on, I just felt myself more and more and more present with the people I was interacting with the activities we were doing, with my own internal process. And the way that I ended up describing it was like those few days felt like this really, really long exhale to me. Like this big, that I didn't need to be wound up and multitasking. I could be really, really present where I was. And the ways that I felt called to spend my free time, even during the retreat, felt very insightful to me too. Like one afternoon, I I went back I was staying in this little cabin by myself, and I just journaled and took a little nap and read in a book. And it was just lovely. Like, I don't take time to do those things very often. Another afternoon when we had a space of free time, I got a massage, and then I went and laid in a hammock by the river and dozed off a little bit, like looked up at the leaves dancing in the breeze against the beautiful sky. And I was like, when do I do this? I don't do things like this very often in my life, just like relaxing or just noticing where I am or giving myself permission. So some of that doesn't have to do with technology, but a lot of it does, like this pull of, well, if I don't have something scheduled, probably somebody's messaging me or emailing me or like needs something, or I could get something done through a device. And taking that away was really, really insightful. So I made a list of what I noticed, and I want to share it with you. So I'm going to be looking down at this list that I made, and then I want to share some research about this as well, because we love the research that supports what our lived experience is. It's helpful to feel it validated in that way. So what I noticed during this time was that I felt a really big shift in my nervous system. So I recognized that I arrived at the retreat feeling very contracted or clenched, like in my body and my energy. I also was experiencing some physical symptoms. I was having some digestive stuff going on. Yes, I too can get digestive stuff going on that I realized was like very emotionally related, that I was feeling really contracted. And so my belly just felt really uncomfortable. And so that was a message to me. And then I also was having a lot of like neck stiffness, especially on the right side of my neck. So there's some things. And then I also just felt like I had this like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Or like, let's get to this like rush energy. And just noticing that, like my nervous system was in this like wound up space. I noticed that I was able to reinstate presence, which I mentioned before. So I felt the multitasking busyness of my mind quiet down, and my ability to focus and be present really increasing during that time. I felt less anxious overall, and anxious not in the way of like really strong anxiety, but kind of this low grade, what I feel often like I'm worried that I'm going to drop the ball somewhere. Like I'm juggling so many different things all the time. And I have this low grade anxiety. Like, am I going to forget something? And that really dropped away. I was like, I don't have to remember anything right now. I just need to show up and be present right where I am. And of course I was in an environment where I was very taken care of. My meals were provided for me. I had a place to stay. I wasn't needing to do any work. And so I was able to really let that anxiety release and fall away. I noticed that I was able to breathe deeper. I felt this really deep softening in my body. And I was able to breathe more expansively, feel more nourished by the breath, and my breathing slowed down. And that was really, really powerful to feel and to see. I felt less concerned about what other people think of me, and noticed that I had more positive self-talk going on in my head. And also noticed that I felt less comparison. Now, this is something that social media really plays into, that we can look at. It's voyeuristic, right? We can be looking at social media and be like, oh wow, that person really has the life, or they are, doing all these cool things and I am not, or, these judgments that can really come up. So being away from all of that helped me just feel like less comparison about myself with others, or seeing these alternate realities, and again just more presence with like the people that I was with. What is their lived experience? What can we connect about? And so that was really lovely to experience too. I felt like I could have authentic conversations without distractions, not having my phone sitting there lighting up with messages. I do always leave my sound turned off on my phone, but I do have that visual cue of the phone lighting up. I also, coming back to that, like preparing people in my life for me to do this, I realized that I had a deeper like knowing and trusting that everything would be okay without me. And I think this is a story that we often, especially those of us that are over-functioning women, right? Maybe we're in recovery, that we tend to tell ourselves a story like that things can't function without us, and or that we will take care of things better than other people will. And I think it's a really important lesson for us to learn that that's not true. And it's not helpful to us to tell ourselves that story, because we get caught up in this, it's self-importance that's totally unnecessary. Sure, other people might do things differently than we do, but that doesn't mean it's worse. It's just like their way of doing things. So we can release that over functioning and really allow other people to step in and share their genius, or be responsible in ways that maybe we don't allow them to be at other times. So that felt really, really good. I felt like I was able to sleep deeper, and we'll get to some research on that too. I felt more peaceful waking up in the morning and getting my day started, not feeling like I needed to check anything on my phone, or that it was like calling to me. I was able just to be present with the dawn of the day starting, and where I was, which felt really good. I was able to finish a book that I've been reading for a while and not feel like, oh, I should check things on my phone. I was like, if I want to read something, I have a book. And I was able to finish that book. And that also felt like a big accomplishment, to be like, I finished a book. Yay. And in general, time felt more spacious. So this is like my lived experience, right? And so I got back, and I was actually kind of scared to turn on my phone. But I did it, and I had like 67 text messages and like tons of emails. And I was like, okay, there it is. Like, there's all the stuff that has collected over the time where I've been away. And, I had gotten home and reconnected with David before I turned my phone on. And I was like, let me just see what this feels like. And it did feel kind of like this wave of like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff here. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to take a deep breath and kind of go through it. What I can get to today, and just see like how does all of this feel. And then I was like, I'm really curious what research is out there about our connection with technology, how it's affecting us, and what a tech detox kind of like is technically defined as. So I did a little bit of research, and I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. But I'm going to share some things, and I'm looking down at my computer screen here so that I can look at this information. But so if we look at something we could call like internet addiction or tech addiction, which I would say most of us struggle with, and I'll share with you kind of how that could be defined in just a little bit. But the effects of this that are researched are being on technology devices, whatever that is for you, leads to poor sleep, back pain generally, because we're like hunching forward, looking at our devices or over a computer, it ends up leading to us wasting time. So we're like, oh, let me just check. We all know this experience, right? Let me just check this one thing. And then it's a half an hour later, an hour later. And we're like, oh, I just meant to check that one thing. And maybe that one thing didn't even happen. We got distracted and off on a tangent somewhere else. So it's wasting our time. There's an increase of stress, which I just shared. Like, I felt like so wound up, and then felt like a lot of anxiety release just from being away from technology. So when we're on technology all the time, we're experiencing increased stress. There's an increase in anxiety and depression from being on technology more and more and more. There's also less focus and a lack of concentration. So that's something that I had noticed, right? Like, I was in this kind of like multitasking mode, and I knew that I didn't feel good doing that. And I was just like, I gotta stay. It's kind of like on the treadmill or the hamster wheel, right? So taking this break was really, really powerful for me in terms of reinstating focus, reinstating concentration. It can lead to vision problems. And what's interesting is the morning before I left, I was trying to get a lot of stuff done on the computer, and I started having these weird floaters out the side, like in my vision. And when I saw that in the research, I was like, oh my gosh, like that was just like more indication to me that I really, really needed this detox. Like, I was having some vision problems the morning that I left. It often leads to reduced actual human contact when we're busy with social media, when we're busy on technology, that we're even, I see this all the time. We have a rule in our household that no technology at the dinner table or any meal. Like, when we're having meals, we're focusing on being together. We're not looking at phones or iPads or anything. However, you probably see this quite frequently, like at restaurants. This might be your lived experience too. People having a meal together, but they're staring at their phone the whole time. They're not actually talking to each other. So when we're addicted to the technology, we're not even connecting with the people that we're in proximity with, the people that we're sharing space with. And so taking away the technology as an option means that we're more present with each other. One of the research pieces I read said even having your phone nearby, even if you're not looking at it, detracts your attention, because there's a part of your attention that's on the phone, even if you're having a conversation with somebody. And so removing that altogether creates more presence, more connectivity, more vulnerability and connection within the relationship. And then finally, if we're connecting with tech all the time, we're exposing ourselves to more and more radiation. So that's something else that can negatively impact our health. So there's this awareness of like how it negatively is impacting us. So let me share some of this research. So a 2020 study published in the Journal of Cyber Psychology, Behavioral and Social Networking found that taking a break from social media for just 1 week led to significant improvement in participants' well-being, including lower levels of anxiety and depression. So good to know, right? Like, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, like, we are taking in so much information, sensory stimulation all the time. Like, we haven't evolved at the same pace that technology has evolved. Humans haven't. Like, we're still very similar to the humans that existed, a few hundred years ago. And yet look at the technology that has evolved in that time. So according to a 2017 study by the American Psychological Association, constant checkers of email, text, and social media reported higher levels of stress compared to those who checked less frequently. The study also found that people who took a break from technology reported feeling more relaxed and less stressed. So here we are living in this culture where we're all like, we're so stressed, we're so overwhelmed, we're so busy. And are we actually looking at our relationship with technology and how that is affecting our nervous systems, our perspectives, our time management? Like, there's a lot of aspects here. Here's another one. A survey conducted by the National Sleep Foundation found that people who used electronic devices for in the hour before bed reported poorer sleep quality than those who did not. Disconnecting from technology before bedtime can improve the quality and quantity of our sleep, which in turn can improve our overall well-being. We all know how we function the day after getting poor sleep, right? We all know what it feels like to get really good sleep. It's like a whole different world. Many of us take our phones to bed with us. Many of us look at our phones first thing when we get up in the morning. I ran a challenge at the beginning of this year for the first week of the year to stroll versus scroll in the morning. So don't get on your phone. Get up, get outside, connect with nature, go for a walk. This was just a little piece of a tech detox. So we can look at doing this from all different levels, right? So it could be a long period of time. It could be a really short period of time. It could be just changing the timing, right? Waiting until after you've meditated or, done some exercise or something in the morning before you look at your phone. Like, tend to yourself before that happens. According to a 2018 study published in the journal Science Direct, people who spent less time on their phones reported feeling more socially connected and less lonely than those who spent more time on their phones. So interesting. We think of social media like as a connective tool, right? But it's actually true that if you spend less time on social media, you feel more connected. You have more authentic relationships in your life. Here's the last one. A survey conducted by the Center for Humane Technology found that people who limited their social media use reported feeling less distracted, less anxious, and more productive. So the research is in. I mean, this is from, a few years ago even. I'm sure there's even more research going on now, too, that we'll get to find out about in the future. The point is that technology, while it's not all bad. I mean, technology is very helpful, and we can respect that and appreciate it, and it can be too much, right? So having clear boundaries, just like everything in our lives, every relationship, having clear boundaries, having clear expectations, being really really structured about how we engage. So this is kind of like what I'm living, the question that I'm living right now is like, how do I want to, now that I've had this experience of just a few days and recognize what a benefit it is to me, how do I want to proceed? So I'm kind of considering, like, could I do like a day, maybe every month? Like, that feels very doable to me. Could I do that every week? Maybe. That feels a little more challenging. And in the habit change that I teach is like, commit to something that feels like totally doable. And then if you do more than that, then you're like, an overachiever, right? But if we set our bars too high with that expectations, then we quote unquote fail just because the expectation didn't get met. Like, I don't know if I can fully do a full day every single week right now. I don't know if I can. So maybe saying I'll do it one day a month is what feels really doable to me, and maybe I end up doing it more. But I hope you'll consider questioning what a digital detox might do for you. So I'm gonna And with, actually, let me do two more things. So one is like, here's some examples of what a digital detox can look like. Oh, and Grace just said, let's see, she said, Cheryl Turkle, founding director of the MIT Initiative on Technology and Self, said our mobile devices granted us three wishes. One, that we will be heard. Two, that we can put our attention to whatever we want. And three, that we will never be alone. But the third wish denies us the crucial experience of connection to our authentic selves. Oh, that is awesome, Grace. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. So yes, and we have, I mean, life is full of paradox. We have conflicting desires, and that doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. It simply means that we need to be consciously navigating when, where, and how those desires get played out. Social media can be very helpful when we're on it all the time and don't have any connection to our authentic self. Then it gets to be an imbalance. And then we start having issues with mental health around it. Yeah. So, oh yeah. And Betsy said she's having floaters. Yeah, you might want to explore that. So here are some examples of ways that you could do a detox. So one is just the social media detox. So taking social media off your phone, and like just taking off Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of those things. We're constantly looking at them. What if they just weren't there? So we know that it creates, when it's removed, that we have a reduction in anxiety, better sleep, increased productivity. Try it out. You could do it for 3 days. Take it off your phone. See what happens. You can always put it back on, right? Another one is a smartphone detox. So this is eliminating the use of your smartphone. So like I did on the backpacking trip, right? Just like turn my phone off, leave it at home. Just not using the smartphone. This has been shown to reduce feelings of FOMO, so fear of missing out, improved relationships, and to increase mindfulness. Like, who doesn't want that? Like, all of those things sound really great simply by turning off your phone. Screen time detox. So this involves reducing the amount of time that you spend on a screen, period. So you could just limit yourself. I'm going to be on screens for 1 hour each day. And that's it. You know, whatever feels doable to you. An internet detox. So you could take a break from being on the internet at all during that time. And this includes online news. So also this helps reduce feelings of overwhelm and increases clarity. And then a digital declutter is another way that you could do. So this involves taking apps off your phone that you don't use or don't like. Taking yourself off mailing lists that come into your inbox that you don't read or you don't enjoy anymore. But decluttering, so the amount of things that are coming into you is decreased, right? So it's a decrease in the amount of what you're taking in through the digital world. And I'm sure you could think of some other ways to do a digital detox, but those are some suggestions. There are also some challenges that are run, that different people run to do that. So you could join a group. So here are 17 signs that you need a digital detox. I felt like this was very interesting. So see if you can self-identify with any of these signs that you need. You need a digital detox. So the first one is you check your phone immediately upon waking up. How many of us do that? A lot. Your phone often gives you anxiety if you tap into how you're actually feeling. Like you see your phone sitting there, it's like, do I want to look at it? Something to be aware of. 3, you compare yourself to others on social media. If that comparing mind is showing up, and it can be subtle, very subtle. If that comparing mind is showing up, think about what would it feel like if that was just removed. least for a little bit of time. 4, social media doesn't bring you joy. Have you thought about that? Like, does this bring me joy? It's like the Marie Kondo method. Like, hold it up and say, does this bring me joy? If your answer is no, it really doesn't. It actually makes me feel icky. You might want to take it off your phone. You might want to take a break, at least for a couple days. Number 5, you answer work-related emails and messages during family time. So you're not having clear boundaries. You're not protecting your time with the people who are with you in real life, IRL, right? You're like, here's a need. Somebody needs something from me and I must respond to it right away. That expectation in business, I think, is very toxic. So that can be very, very challenging too. 6, your phone is next to you at the dinner table. I mentioned that before, like removing it. If it's right there with you at meals, that's a sign you need a detox. You have an unhealthy connection to your phone. So 7, you experience FONS or fear of not sharing. When you do something fun, like a concert, amusement park, or event, you feel like you have to share on social media right away. This is where I am. This is what I'm doing. My life is so cool, right? If you feel like that all the time, like, ooh, that would be cool to put on Instagram, or I should make a social media post about that, you need a tech detox. It's like how your brain is functioning, not in the world where you are, right? 8, you miss parts of movies or shows because you're staring at your phone. Or conversations, we could add in there too. 9, your partner or child has complained about you being on your phone too much. Something to pay attention to. Or anybody in your life. Doesn't have to be a partner or child. Number 10, you cannot sit alone without staring at your phone. It's your security blanket. So if you notice, like when you're sitting in a doctor's office or, even waiting in line at the grocery store to check out with your groceries or whatever, you grab your phone. I notice I do this. I'm like, oh, I have a moment. Let me check, right? That's a tech addiction. So you might want to take a break. Your social media followers overwhelm you. I don't feel that so much, but maybe you're really big on TikTok or something, and all the response feels overwhelming to you. 11, your social media, that was what I just read. 12, comparison is a daily practice when scrolling the feeds. So again, that comparing mind. And that might feel very familiar to you. Very similar to number 3. You compare yourself to others on social media. Yeah. Seeing where you measure up in everybody's feed. Not a good practice. 13, your personal email box stresses you out or annoys you. So again, noticing how you feel in relationship to checking your email. You might feel your stomach clench. You might feel your shoulders hunch. You might feel, like you lose energy when you're like, I have to check my email. Yeah. 14, notifications keep you from sleeping. Yeah. Ideally, our phones are not even in our rooms when we're sleeping. They stay out of the bedroom. But notifications disturbing your sleep, not so good. 15, you've missed deadlines due to distractions online. So again, going down those rabbit holes, going on adventures of all the things, and we lose our time integrity. 16, you compulsively check notifications or messages. So it can become like an ongoing habit, just secondary all the time. This is something that I noticed that I have done, and something that I was aware of at the retreat. I'm so used to when I'm working often, or even when I'm at home doing things, I'll just tap my phone pretty frequently to see if any messages have popped up. I have only enabled text messages to come through to me on my display, so I'm not seeing Messenger or emails or those things, but still I check it really frequently, and that is something that is something that I want to change now. I'm more aware of it after this past weekend. And then the final one, like you're stalking or following somebody online. Maybe stalking is too strong of a word, but you're like constantly checking what is happening. Maybe it's a celebrity, maybe it's somebody that you know, maybe, right? But you're like constantly checking on like what's going on in their world now. And that is very, very unhealthy. It's pulling you out of your life. So yeah, I hope that we can recognize tech isn't all bad. We want to be so grateful for the ways in which tech can support us. Technology is very important for our modern world. And how do we use it responsibly? How do we make sure that it's not especially affecting our mental health and physical well-being, that we have clear boundaries? So as always, here's my message for July 4th. We get to choose how we create the structure that creates our freedom. Freedom is not created by inviting chaos, where everything is a free-for-all. Freedom is created through structure. So I invite you, as I'm doing, I mean, I don't have all the answers here, but I wanted to share my lived experience as an invitation for you to explore this too. So let's be in conversation about it. I'm curious to hear your experiments that you're willing to run in your life, what you're noticing. And I look forward to connecting more about it via tech. So, oh, the irony. I hope you all have a really great rest of your holiday. Thanks for those of you here live. And if you're watching the replay, give us a #replay. And let's continue to be in conversation about the role of technology in our lives and how liberating it can be to put some boundaries on how we engage with technology. Be well, you all. Take care.